Welcome to the University of Nottingham and the Department of Theology and Religious Studies, and you're watching another video in the series Why Study? With me today I've Dr. Jon Hoover, who's our expert in Islamic studies, and he's also an expert in the work of Ibn Taymiyya, who is a famous Arabic historian. And Jon, why study Ibn Taymiyya?
Well, Ibn Taymiyya is well known for many reasons. Let me start with the security reasons. He is quoted as an authority by Osama bin Laden, and that tends to get people's interest immediately. And then he's also famous for having written a large work on Shiism, which is feeding into a lot of Sunni Shia polemics today. He was himself a Sunni. He lived most of his life in Damascus, and there were Shia-Sunni tensions in Damascus at that time. He also wrote the largest refutation of Christianity in the whole Islamic tradition. He's written a refutation of Aristotelian logic, and coming out of this, he's quite a modern figure, actually, in terms of his epistemology and the way in which he approaches texts and so on. He's written a very huge work arguing that the revelation of Islam agrees with reason, so the agreement of revelation and reason. He's talked about Sufism and the spirituality of Islam, and he is well known for his critique of saint worship, shrine worship, or the shrine cult. So he covers all kinds of things, and there are different groups of Muslims and non-Muslims today who have taken interest in his work on any one of these counts and gotten quite into his thought. But he has something to say about a lot of different things. He stands about midway between the beginning of Islam and the present day. He lived in the late 1200s, early 1300s. He died in 1328. So standing at that juncture, halfway between the beginning and the present of the Islamic tradition, and then having captured the interest of so many people today, that makes him a very fascinating figure to study.
So, in other words, here is someone who in Islam is as significant in the range of his work as Augustine or Aquinas is in the Christian tradition.
Or even more so. I like to say sometimes, if you walk the streets of Cairo, you can find Ibn Taymiyya's works, or especially the works of his disciple Ibn Qayyim who writes a bit more poetically and more beautifully. You find them in almost any Islamic bookshop, where you're not going to find Augustine and Aquinas in any bookshop in the UK.
Yes, unfortunately.
So there's a sense in which Ibn Taymiyya and Ibn Qayyim al-Jawziyya, his student, are more present in centers like Cairo and.
So studying him is not just studying the historical thought in the way that we might study the historical thought of some great thinker in the past. It's actually studying a living force in Islamic understanding today.
Yes, studying Ibn Taymiyya is indeed studying a living force in the Islamic tradition, the present-day Islam.
To what extent is Ibn Taymiyya today? We spoke earlier about him being a living force. Mm-hmm. What would you say is the most salient of his thoughts that is active today?
He really believed firmly that the religion of Islam was rational and agreed with reason, and he worked hard to show that. So he's an apologist, and I think that connects very closely with what many modern Muslims, not all modern Muslims, but many modern Muslims are seeking, is a rationalization and an attempt to explain the Quran and the tradition of the Prophet Muhammad in a way which makes sense. He's trying to make that make sense. It's reasonable.
Okay. We have tried in this short film to introduce the thought of a great thinker. I hope you found it interesting, and I hope that it has helped you to discover more and whet your appetite to study even more. Jon, it's been great having you. Thank you. thank you for watching. And from the Department of Theology and Religious Studies here in the University of Nottingham, goodbye.